Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
I'm with Dr. Radhakrishnan, who is the Health Secretary of Tamil Nadu and has battled and who was at the forefront of the second COVID wave. Sir, thank you for joining us. Sir, my first question to you is, so now there's this new Delta variant. What are the main steps being implemented and what is at the forefront in terms of being wary of this and managing this new variant?
So with regard to COVID itself, the lesson learned was that, frequently there have been variants coming in between. There was a alpha, then beta, like that it kept on coming. Now we focus on, based on the public health advice and the Government of India's various directions and all, we have our own task force also. We do whole genomic sequencing of the samples, We take the samples and do the genomic sequencing. So what we found is roughly around 74% of the samples were positive for Delta variant in the month of late second fortnight of April, May, June. So one thing is clear that the second wave itself was driven by Delta variant. That's point number one. On the other hand, and Delta plus we got in hardly 10 samples. So Delta plus somehow from the field position does not seem to be an issue, whereas Delta seems to be an issue, because even now there are places, streets and habitations where this case, not even a single case has been reported. Those areas we have to be very careful. So these kind of genomic analysis are a pointer that we just can't take things lightly. Earlier British variant, when it came, that time also the similar exercise was done. And now Delta internationally has been the issue. So here, while the second wave itself had so much of Delta variant as a cause, still we have to be cautious for the before we enter the next spike or thing, which we are trying our best to avoid.
Sir, compared to, since the second wave, there's been a lot of focus on vaccinations, because that has been seen as one way of, battling COVID. Tamil Nadu initially was battling a fair amount of vaccine hesitancy. There was a bit of vaccine, wastage. Right now, there's an upturn, and it's among the top performing states in vaccine utilization. How did this turnaround come in, and has the state been successful in dealing with vaccine hesitancy?
See, Tamil Nadu historically, for all kinds of vaccination has been a slow starter. Even the earlier vaccinations when it was started also, we generally there is a lot of vaccine hesitancy, and to an extent with regard to COVID, we also had to fight vaccine apathy, because when vaccine was introduced in January 16, that was the period when the number of cases were one of the lowest, not only in Tamil Nadu but also India. And peculiarly, while a neighboring state also the vaccine uptake was quite high, up to April, it was very slow. Once the new government took over, it also coincided with the increasing number of cases. Plus, there was a lot of focus given on intensive awareness and localized drives. Instead of a centralized drive, we decentralized the drive. Top level also messages were given, from the Chief Minister, Honorable Chief Minister. Down the line, district level collectors along with the local people also took charge of this issue. And for example, in Ooty, all the tribals and the tea workers have been completely vaccinated. So individually people started innovating within the permitted level. So once 18 and above was opened up, and it also coincided with the second wave also being in place, there was a complete and large-scale awareness, willingness to accept these. By that time, almost 89 lakh people had taken the doses till the end of beginning of May. Till April. So people also were assured that it was not risky to take vaccine. The turnaround happened. Apart from it, now we have district level. The situation has gone the other way around, when people are waiting for vaccine, but the supply sometimes we are not able to assure everywhere, which depends on the regular supply from Government of India, which has now got streamlined also. Apart from it, the biggest challenge Tamil Nadu faced in the beginning was wastage. We had wastage reported up to 6%, because Covaxin, if you open the last vial, you need to have that number of people. Initially it was a 20-dose vial, and Covishield 10-dose vial. So in a place where in a vaccination center 25 to 30 people only are turning up, returning them a last lot, because they were not equal to the number of doses in the vial, was difficult. But as we turned around, we had this Kerala example of trying to take out more than the available doses are generally 10 to 20% in each vial, but extracting it and using it. Kerala started it, and Tamil Nadu took it in a big way in every district. We trained people. Then we also ensured that the last round we don't waste the thing. So ultimately now almost 6.6 lakh additional doses we have been able to extract out of the over and above what is technically permissible out of the 10 dose vial. Out of this, every vial you have a 10% extra dose available there. So that was basically a cumulative effort of grassroots workers, for which we have to thank the persons who actually injected. So they took it up as a mission, and now I think we are the topmost state. If you take from May onwards, we have extracted almost 6.6 lakh additional doses.
So right now, since the second wave, there was a decline in cases, and now there's been an uptake. The uptake is not just in Tamil Nadu, but like across the country. From these numbers, do you think a third wave is, it's unavoidable? And is vaccination the only way of tackling the Delta variant in the third wave?
See, we are cutting edge people, and we always tell down the line also the message with COVID. I have told that we should go by what the experts say, whether it is public health or clinical experts. So question of whether a wave comes or not is not the only concern, but the fact is when you start getting reports of more cases every day compared to the previous day, when you plot it, it does look like a wave. So we are mentally, Honorable CM says that we should be prepared for any eventuality. So as far as strengthening of the medical infrastructure, which was rapidly strengthened during the second wave, and oxygen supplies, streamlining it, ensuring that there is default support for oxygen supply, and all is done. Plus pediatric cases, though there is no official basis for this, but some of the scientists have expressed that more pediatric cases will be there. Some of the countries, we have reports in Indonesia, more pediatric children are getting affected. So we are not taking any chances. 25% of beds we are reserving. We are training nurses. Even today's paper you would have said that so many nurses we have trained for handling pediatric cases. Even doctors other than pediatricians, we are training them so that they can handle the pediatric cases. So like that, multi-level preparations we are doing. But on the other hand, we keep telling people that it is in their hands to prevent a surge or a spike. So they need to ensure that they take advantages of the vaccine supply, and with focus on vulnerable sections, whether it is elderly or whether it is those who go to workplaces where you can catch infection or give infection to others, plus those who have to continuously go into a crowded place, whether it is a workplace or markets. They all should prioritize, plus general public also, plus those who are comorbid. So this priority vaccination we are keeping on pushing on one side. Plus you would have seen 3 days back, Honorable CM 2 days back launched a massive information education awareness campaign. Already it is being done, but we have repackaged it with likely third wave in mind, to spread the message back to people is that a bit of casualness now will make all of us pay.
Yeah.
They need to understand that it is like somebody who can damage. If you are COVID positive, if you don't take protection, you can give it to so many. If you are in a crowd where somebody who is not telling is there, you can get it. So either way it is risky. So this message, constant messaging to public, awareness is not at all in short. We will not say that awareness is short, but change of behavior is not to the extent. Rapid drop in right behavior is what is seen once the numbers start dropping in. So the moment this has started rising, even though it is very marginal now, we are not taking chances. We are telling people that it is serious. That is why Chennai Corporation Commissioner has ensured that 9 important narrow places where crowding was taking place, trading places, he has closed it for some days along with Police Commissioner. Similar actions have been taken in the district. Then with regard to border areas where inflow, already Karnataka had some restrictions. Tamil Nadu did not have much restrictions as on date except thermal scanning. So we are now also insisting by giving adequate time to people to take RT-PCR test, even if they are traveling from Kerala. This is of course not applicable to people who are right in the border, and for day-to-day work they have to travel to the neighboring district.
Sir, you spoke about the second wave and how the medical infrastructure is being strengthened. The second wave was characterized by a huge demand for oxygen, and it was a lot more severe. Do you think a potential third wave, if it does come, will be just as grave?
See, COVID has taught one important lesson is, while we can keep planning, we need to understand that we cannot take anything for granted. While experts keep giving us points, let us be very frank. Mucormycosis was something which we all missed, despite starting post-COVID clinics. Post-COVID clinics looked into a number of things, but somewhere down the line, specifically the kind of damage which mucormycosis did, we all did not, as a team, because everybody is learning. So second wave was a pointer that while we had planned for almost 1.5 lakh active cases, Tamil Nadu's active cases went up to 3.13 lakhs. Probably this could be because we also had elections in between, and there was a delay in decision making as far as lockdown was concerned. But we need to see, once we are on ground, we have to understand that that 3 lakh active cases, and daily cases rose up to 36,000 a day. And if you take an average 10-day stay in a hospital, the requirement, and not 36,000 go to hospital, maybe 30% of them go. But actual bed requirement shot up like anything. We augmented it, and by the middle of the wave, we had ensured adequate beds. But there were days when ambulances did wait. So we cannot deny such instances. We quickly rose up to the occasion and ensured that oxygen bed are further augmented. Already we had an augmented facility, but that was found wanting. So first wave, it went up to 7,000 cases a day, maximum, 6,993 to be specific. But second wave, it went up to 36,000. So for third wave, we are not taking any chances. If experts say that we have to plan for 37,000 beds, oxygen beds, we are planning for 74,000. So that is a kind of planning.
So it's pretty much double the planning. Yeah.
That doesn't mean we will get this. Our effort should be not to bring cases, but for planning purposes, we cannot say we shouldn't plan. Similarly, the lesson, some states, here, some areas within our state, I will say, home quarantine used to be allowed. We found that home quarantine was risky during second wave because many people in the house started getting. So home quarantine in the first wave, the complaints, because the disease was new, even in home quarantine was very good. Similarly, big hospital people had started getting used to, and despite being told that attender, if at all, has to come, it has to do with PPE, little bit of errors crept in one or two hospitals. So there were a number of lessons learned, including the need to augment. In Tamil Nadu, the innovations were, we kept a war room, state war room, and we also kept a district level war room, and we had a dedicated oxygen team looking at supplies, and the Government of India also under the National Oxygen Plan allowed us to get up to 650 metric tons per day, and from Eastern Corridor through train, and also through plane, and also through ship on occasions. Sure. Oxygen was moved, and then from Visakhapatnam through, after Visakhapatnam by road it came. Flight tankers used to be sent, by train it used to come. Then containers on a regular basis, daily basis, used to augment over and above the 400 metric tons which we had within our state.
Sure. So I just want to ask you, because
400 metric tons, sorry.
Sure. So you talk about precautionary measures, just talking about some limits on cross-border movement. Is this more of a precautionary measure? And because it's such a porous border between the two states, will you think infections will be prevented through these measures?
See, the idea is for the regular people going up and down, it's not an issue. If you look at Andhra border, Karnataka border.
So they don't require RT-PCR?
No. See, what we are saying is regular people. You see, every day you cannot be asked to take an RT-PCR test. So this is basically for travelers who are traveling from various places. Unknown to them, there is a likelihood that they pick it up, and then they miss it out on thermal scanning, because it takes time, and by the time they go home, spread it to many. So to prevent that, some sort of control is definitely needed. In fact, Karnataka government had introduced this much earlier, and for that matter, even to go to Kerala, there are a lot of controls. Kerala itself has put in a lot of control to prevent infection from coming. So this is just a public health measure. Kerala is also doing, and we were similarly having a lot of cases just a few days back. So every state within the overall scheme of public health measures has been taking steps, apart from also self monitoring and reporting. You can be RT-PCR negative, you can cross a border, then maybe within a week if you get fever also you have to report. So we are telling people that wherever you go, see, the biggest challenges in Tamil Nadu which we found after relaxations were brought in were, one, this is a challenge everywhere, this kind of revenge travel, revenge tourism, revenge purchases, so going to marketplaces. So there were select marketplaces where even the shops implemented SOPs, but the main roads in the marketplace were chock-a-block. Similarly, outside religious places, irrespective of the religion, in the religious places it was maintained well, but the shops and the streets outside. Then with regard to marriages, permission is for 50 and funerals it is 20, but it was basically obeyed, flouted, particularly Western Belt. A number of marriages are happening where ultimately, by claiming to stagger the crowd, at some point of time, let alone 50, almost to the range of 500 to 1,000 people assembled, without realizing that they are risking. We had an incident in Tanjavur where after attending a funeral, more than 50 people got. So this is a pointer that COVID is not changed by nature, coronavirus. We may attribute it to variants, but ultimately by nature, when you have a susceptible population in front of you, which is not taking adequate preventive care, it spreads. So earlier we had issues with regard to schools also. When the schools were open, we had spread in Tanjavur, through Tanjavur and 1 or 2 districts based on school spread also. So all places, the lesson is, for next few months, a question of having a mask, and especially the biggest mistake being done is not following social distance, including in many government activities. That also has been pointed out by the enforcers.
Sure. So my last question is about the Sero survey, which was the recent results of it, where Tamil Nadu saw over 60% people had COVID antibodies. In Chennai itself, at about 82%. Can you tell us a bit about these results? Are they alarming to you? It's also coming after a substantial round of vaccinations. So how reflective is this?
See, Sero survey I always take as just information. See, that information is either people have been exposed to the disease or they have been vaccinated. So one way of looking at it, 66% people out of a sample were found to be positive according to the third Sero survey done. Similarly, fourth Sero survey of corporation also by and large shows similar to what the state government did for Chennai. It is above 80%. But the point is that 34% of Tamil Nadu's population is susceptible. That is first point. Second is that when it comes to a question of variants, we are not sure whether the present level of antibody is effective against all new variants. So people need to understand that general people's tendency is to say that because of vaccination and because so many people are exposed, so very little chance of the next wave. In COVID, we have to be guarded. We have to have the information and say that, compared to first wave, situation is better because more than 2.3 crore people have got 1 dose of vaccine. Almost 2 crore people have got 1 dose of vaccine at least. Total vaccination is around 2.3 crore doses. Complete vaccination will be only around 1.7, 2 doses would be far lesser. It's only around 6% of population. Having said that, number of people vaccinated, even at least with 1 dose, number of people exposed has gone up. So chances that they have antibody is what sero prevalence shows. But we cannot bank on it and use it as a thing in our armory. We have to say that that's a good position to be in So chances people will have antibody.
Sure.
But the bigger chances are 34% people don't have
Susceptible,
antibody.
yeah.
They could. Similarly, if you look at some of the districts like Coimbatore, Erode, there, Karur, there the seroprevalence is much lesser.
Okay.
So those are the areas where we are planning to ramp up vaccination. While population-based vaccination are being based on population, we are sending vaccine to all the districts.
Sure.
And Chennai also, bigger cities used to get some additional preference, like Chennai, Coimbatore and all. But now, districts which are showing less seroprevalence, we are going to give additional vaccine so that they can quickly ramp up their, antibody levels.
Is there any measures being taken for the border districts which are on the border at present?
Definitely, see, the seroprevalence of the border districts is mimicking the seroprevalence in Kerala. I am talking about Kerala border. So these are the districts where we have to encourage. See, one thing which people
Encourage
need,
vaccination.
One thing we have to learn from Kerala is that there the vaccination levels are far higher. Because from January the people are they had already adopted vaccination.
Sure.
So almost 50% have got one dose, 20% have got two doses.
Second dose, yeah.
Tamil Nadu, it is in the range of 30% and 6%.
30% with the first dose, 6% with the second
So
dose.
I'm giving you a rough figure. So this is one area where we really need to focus on border districts. So that we have been doing. The positive point is now there is a large scale involvement of public and also elected representative in taking their area for vaccination. We are getting demand. When we last time went to, myself and the Minister of Health went to Coimbatore, we had at least 200 people giving request, out of which 190 was only seeking vaccination. It was not other request. So even our Honorable Minister was pointing out, the first time we find people coming not for transfer or posting or for some equipment or some bed, but seeking vaccination. In a sense, it is a very healthy position to be in compared to what we were in January, February, March.
That was Dr. Radhakrishnan, who is the Health Secretary of Tamil Nadu. For more such videos and follow-up coverage from Tamil Nadu, this is Revati Krishnan along with Manisha Mondal reporting for The Print from Chennai.